It's been the worst time of my life, Joe. For somebody to accuse me of them or hurting them, I have a 22-year-old daughter. I would never hurt anyone. And it's somebody I knew for a whole year.
Imagine being a Hollywood legend, rubbing shoulders with Jamie Foxx, Jackie Chan, and Ice Cube. You voiced one of gaming's most iconic villains. Fans adore you. Then one night, a single accusation turned into a serious lawsuit, and suddenly, the possibility of life-altering consequences was very real. At that point, no one knew what would happen next or how it might affect his career. So, what actually went down that night, and is this the end for him? The final goodbye to his career? Stick around, because what happened next will shock you.
Baby girl.
Hey, Cuddy.
Came by to see you a little earlier, but you went home.
Let's rewind to the very beginning. Clifton Powell was born on March 16, 1956, right in the heart of Washington, D.C., in the Mayfair Mansions neighborhood of Northeast D.C. Growing up, there wasn't always easy. Like many urban neighborhoods at the time, it had its share of challenges, from poverty to crime. But it was also a place full of tight-knit communities where people looked out for each other. From an early age, Clifton seemed drawn to the stage, showing a natural flair for performing in school plays and soaking in the city's vibrant arts scene, which included everything from local theater productions to jazz and gospel music that flowed through the streets. He started out at H.D. Woodson Senior High School, but eventually transferred to the Duke Ellington School of the Arts, which had already earned a reputation for nurturing creative talent. Being there was a formative experience. He was surrounded by peers who were just as driven, passionate, and talented, and the school's focus on music, dance, and theater really helped him sharpen his skills and find his own voice. It's easy to imagine young Clifton wandering the halls, scripts in hand, fully immersed in the kind of environment that makes you fall in love with acting. After high school, he made the move to Emerson College in Boston, which must have felt like a whole new world compared to D.C., but it also put him in closer reach of his dreams. He earned a degree in speech and theater, learning the technical side of performance while continuing to grow his craft. By the time he landed in Hollywood in the 1980s, Powell had a combination of talent, determination, and that magnetic presence that can make a casting director take notice. Breaking in wasn't easy, especially as a black actor in an industry that had very few leading roles for people of color, but he had a mix of grit, charm, and a voice that could fill a room, which helped him stand out. His first real taste of recognition came in 1991 with a small but memorable role in House Party, the comedy classic starring Kid and Play. He played a tough, street-smart character, and even though it wasn't a huge part, it set the tone for the kind of roles that would come to define his career: strong, commanding, and full of personality. From there, Powell's career steadily grew, showing that early spark he had in those school plays had only gotten brighter. 2 years later, in 1993, Powell cemented his name with Menace II Society. As Chauncey, he brought raw intensity to the Hughes brothers' urban masterpiece, stealing scenes in a film packed with future legends like Lorenz Tate and Samuel L. Jackson. Critics raved about his ability to embody the streets while adding depth to a supporting role. This wasn't just a part, it was a statement. Clifton Powell had arrived.
I don't give a I said, nigga. I don't get out of bed for 2:30. Don't come through this so early next time, nigga.
Understood.
See what you got.
The 90s were a whirlwind. In 1995, he played Cuddy in Dead Presidents, another Hughes brothers classic, channeling the desperation of a Vietnam vet turned bank robber. In 1998, he tackled drama in Why Do Fools Fall in Love, playing Frankie Lyman's manager with a mix of charm and menace. That same year, he showed his comedic chops in Rush Hour, trading lines with Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan in a role that had audiences howling. Powell wasn't just versatile, he was unforgettable, a chameleon who could do it all.
You find yourself in a jam and shit, need a little cash, you come see me, I'll front you. Listen, brother, I know about pride, but you got mouths to feed.
The 2000s were when Powell hit his peak. He became a household name for comedy fans as Pinky, the no-nonsense uncle in Next Friday, and its 2002 sequel, Friday After Next. His larger-than-life persona, part scary, part hilarious, made him a fan favorite. But Powell wasn't just about laughs. In 2004, he took on the monumental role of Martin Luther King Jr. in Woman Thou Art Loosed, a faith-based drama that showed his range. That same year, he earned an NAACP Image Award nomination for his soul-stirring performance as Oberon, Ray Charles's bandmate, in the Oscar-winning Ray opposite Jamie Foxx. His scenes were electric, blending loyalty and heartbreak in a way that left audiences floored. Gamers know him for a different kind of legacy, Big Smoke in Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas. As the fast-talking, double-crossing gangbanger, Powell's voice became iconic, spawning memes like, "All you had to do was follow the damn train, CJ," that still dominate internet culture today. By the mid-2000s, Powell had over 100 film and TV credits, from Deep Cover to The Pentagon Wars. He popped up in TV shows like The Family Business, Saints and Sinners, and Sacrifice, proving he could dominate any screen. Off-screen, he was a family man, father to Maya and Clifton Jr., grandfather to two, living a life that seemed untouchable. His net worth, estimated at $500,000 to $1 million by 2025, reflected decades of steady work. Life was golden, or so it seemed.
Most emotional ordeal I've ever been through since my father died in the 80s. I've lost work because of it. You know, my reputation has been basically ruined, and I have to go about the business of trying to fix my reputation. So
you believe this did affect your career? You have a very prominent career in Hollywood, so many great roles that we all grew up watching.
I feel like some jobs just went away. Some jobs, I was working one show, which I can't.
In August 2011, something unexpected happened in Powell's life while he was in New Orleans for a promotional event at Harrah's Hotel. Like many actors in the spotlight, he was enjoying the nightlife, the parties, the clubs, and the general buzz that comes with being on the road for work. During that trip, he met a woman at a club, and what started as a consensual interaction in his hotel room eventually led to a legal dispute. In 2012, a woman named Keontae Myers filed a civil lawsuit in the Eastern District of Louisiana, claiming assault, battery, and emotional distress, and seeking more than $75,000 in damages. The case centered on her allegation that the encounter became non-consensual, a claim Powell denied through his representatives. The police ultimately declined to file criminal charges, citing insufficient evidence, and later court rulings noted inconsistencies in the accuser's story. A default judgment initially awarded $150,000 plus medical expenses, but this was later vacated. Of course, the story definitely caught the media's attention, with outlets like TMZ and Urban Daily covering it at the time, and it happened during a moment when Hollywood was starting to look a lot more closely at the personal conduct of its stars. Even though Powell kept working, you can see that after 2012 his roles started to slow down, which lined up with both the publicity around the case and the broader cultural shift toward accountability in the industry. Powell and his team pushed back hard against the claims. Through his reps, he called the accusations absolutely not true, framing the lawsuit as a kind of money grab. They highlighted text messages and pointed to parts of the woman's story that didn't quite add up, saying these details raise serious questions about her motives. Powell's lawyers maintained that the encounter had been consensual from beginning to end, and Powell himself said he was blindsided by the whole situation. It's worth looking at how the legal process actually played out, because that part often gets overlooked. No criminal charges were ever filed against Powell. Prosecutors in New Orleans did review the case, but ultimately decided not to move forward, saying the evidence just wasn't strong enough to meet the very high standard of beyond a reasonable doubt that's required in criminal court. Civil court, on the other hand, works differently. The bar there is lower. It's about whether something is more likely than not to have happened, what's called the preponderance of evidence. That's why the lawsuit was able to move forward even without any criminal charges, though of course, the fact that it existed at all meant Powell's name stayed in the headlines and under public scrutiny for a long stretch of time. And the stakes, if it had gone the other way, were enormous. In Louisiana, a conviction on SA charges can carry some of the harshest penalties in the country, including the possibility of life in prison without parole and mandatory registration as a sexual offender. For someone like Powell, who had spent decades building a career in film and television, a conviction would have meant not just the end of his work in Hollywood, but the loss of his freedom and even stability in his personal life. The media attention only added to the weight of it all. Court filings were picked apart by TMZ, blogs speculated about every detail, and fans on social media quickly split into camps. Some argued that this was another example of a black celebrity being targeted with false accusations, a pattern people have pointed out in the entertainment industry before. Others wondered if the claims had merit, pointing to the seriousness of the allegations. Hollywood insiders were paying close attention too, and that uncertainty made casting directors more cautious. Before long, Powell's career momentum slowed, and his reputation, which had once been built on his charisma and reliability as a character actor, became clouded by doubt. For the next several years, the lawsuit really hung over Powell's life. His lawyers stayed busy, filing motions, taking depositions, and even calling on expert witnesses to back up his side of the story. Powell, on the other hand, tried to keep a lower profile. He pulled back from the spotlight, spending more time with his kids and leaning on his faith to get through the stress. Every now and then, his reps would put out statements stressing that he was standing firm in his innocence and determined to fight the claims head-on. Still, the whole ordeal weighed heavily on him. Friends noticed that he wasn't quite the same. He seemed quieter, more cautious, like the constant attention and speculation had worn him down. Even though he was doing everything he could legally to defend himself, the public pressure never really let up. Those years became a real test for him, not just as an actor, but as a person, stretching him emotionally, professionally, and spiritually. And it left people asking the big question: could he ever bounce back and reclaim the career and reputation he had worked so hard to build?
Show which I can't name. I thought I was going to be there about 7 or 8 episodes. After the second episode, it went away because people are reading on, certain sites, and I can't mention those sites because I may have to deal with those sites legally. They read it like I was arrested, accused, and already, framed. I mean, not framed, but guilty. And basically, what it was a civil case. And sometimes people have to really do their research, like you guys did. I want to say thank you to TMZ because you guys.
Finally, in 2017, the long-running case came to an official close. Federal Judge Sarah S. Vance in the Eastern District of Louisiana vacated the default judgment and dismissed the lawsuit with prejudice, basically legal shorthand for "this is done and it can't be refiled." The dismissal came down to a couple of key issues. Powell had never been properly served in the first place, and there were inconsistencies in the accuser's account, including timeline problems and even a detective's affidavit that said the claims didn't hold up. In the end, there was no trial, no payout, and no admission of guilt. Legally, Powell walked away clear, though the years of public scrutiny had already left their mark. Through his team, He put out a brief statement thanking supporters and saying he was focused on his family and his faith. It wasn't a victory lap or any kind of celebration, just a quiet sense of relief that the ordeal was finally behind him. Once the case was over, Powell turned his energy toward rebuilding, and to his credit, Hollywood didn't shut him out. In fact, he found ways to bounce back and even add new dimensions to his career. In 2016, he landed a recurring role on Greenleaf, the hit drama produced by Oprah Winfrey's network. As a bishop with layers of authority, conflict, and vulnerability, Powell delivered the kind of performance that reminded audiences why he'd always stood out. He carried the same intensity people had seen from him before, but now it felt grounded in something deeper, almost like his own real-life struggles had sharpened his craft. By 2018, he was also showing up in faith-based projects like The Last Fall, taking on roles as fathers and mentors that really connected with viewers who were drawn to stories of resilience and redemption. The real turning point for Powell came in 2020. Not only did he take on a major role in BET's The Family Business, a slick, gritty crime drama, but he also moved into producing, stepping behind the camera as an executive producer. That shift gave him a new kind of creative control, and it paid off. The show quickly found its audience, and with Powell's Uncle Lou holding down the center of the Duncan family saga, it's grown into a staple for BET+, now rolling into its 5th season as of 2025. But Powell didn't stop there. His career has always been about range, and he's shown it time and again, from playing Martin Luther King Jr. in the 1999 TV film Selma, Lord Selma, to lending his distinct voice to animated projects, to making regular appearances at fan conventions where he shares stories about his journey. Even at 69, he hasn't slowed down. His credits in Sacrifice and a packed IMDb page are proof that he's still working steadily, constantly finding new ways to stay relevant and connected to his audience. What makes his comeback especially striking is the bigger picture. Powell's career isn't just about personal resilience, it highlights a harsh reality about Hollywood itself. Studies like the 2017 Annenberg Inclusion Initiative report show that Black actors are consistently underrepresented on screen, making up only about 13.6% of speaking roles in top films. And when scandals or allegations surface, actors of color often face much harsher consequences and fewer second chances than their white counterparts. The double standard is hard to miss. And yet, Powell managed to defy the odds. Instead of letting the lawsuit define him, he turned his energy into mentoring up-and-coming actors, sometimes even teaming up with his son at events focused on faith, resilience, and navigating the industry. He's also made a point of returning to his roots in Washington, D.C., showing up at community gatherings in Mayfair Mansions, the same neighborhood that shaped him. It's not the story of someone who faded away. It's the story of a man who decided that one chapter, no matter how painful, wasn't going to be the final word on his life. So, what does Clifton Powell's legacy really look like? Sure, on paper it's more than 100 film and TV credits, plus the internet jokes and memes that keep his roles, like Big Smoke, alive in pop culture. But if you step back, his real legacy is in how he handled a career that could have easily collapsed after 2017 and turned it into a lesson in perseverance. Powell could have cashed in on the controversy, maybe written a tell-all book or jumped into reality TV. Instead, he went the opposite direction. He focused on what mattered most to him: his craft, his family, and his community. Today, he's not only a dedicated father to Maya and Clifton Jr., but also a proud grandfather who lights up when he talks about his grandkids. And even with all of his success, he's never distanced himself from his roots. He still comes back to Mayfair Mansions in D.C., showing up to support local arts programs and invest in the next generation. What makes Powell stand out is that his story goes beyond acting credits. He's become a kind of touchstone for black actors trying to navigate Hollywood's uneven playing field. The history is there. Cuba Gooding Jr. saw his career stall after legal battles. Nate Parker's Birth of a Nation was derailed by resurfaced allegations despite his acquittal, and countless others never really got a second shot. Powell's path turned out differently. He didn't just hang on. He carved out a new chapter, proving that talent, persistence, and a little stubbornness can outlast public doubt. His performances in projects like Greenleaf and The Last Fall hit even harder because audiences saw them as reflections of his own journey, redemption, resilience, and hard-earned wisdom. And then, there's the way he connects with fans. At conventions, people don't just line up to talk about Ray or Friday. They come to hear him. Powell has spoken openly about what the lawsuit put him through, and instead of bitterness, his message has been about getting through life's storms with faith and family. He mentors young actors, talking about discipline, mental health, and the importance of taking ownership of your story instead of letting outside forces define you. Back in D.C., he invests his time and energy into youth theater programs, pouring into the same kind of spaces that once gave him his start. Powell's influence extends to the culture at large. Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas remains a gaming landmark, with Big Smoke's lines quoted endlessly on TikTok and X. His Ray performance is still taught in acting classes for its emotional depth. And in 2025, as the family business continues to stream on BET+, Powell's role as a patriarch mirrors his real-life journey, a man steering his family through chaos with grit and grace. He's not just a survivor, he's a trailblazer who's rewritten what a comeback can mean. So, was Clifton Powell's sentence final? In a way, yes. The ordeal tested his soul, his career, his very identity. But the real goodbye? It was to the doubters, the naysayers, the headlines that tried to bury him. Today, at 69, he's thriving, acting, producing, mentoring, and giving back. His story proves one thing: allegations don't have to define you if the truth is on your side. Hollywood's a battlefield. Some, like Bill Cosby, fall hard. Others, like Powell, rise above. What do you think? Is the system fair, or is it rigged against stars like him? Drop a comment below, and let's get the conversation going. If this story was moving for you, smash that like button, subscribe for more untold Hollywood tales, and hit the bell so you never miss a drop. Want more? Check out another one of our videos. Thanks for watching.